Bobby Rio, and Rob Judge. Man, thank you guys.
As a dating coach, I hear the same frustration over and over. And it doesn't matter if a guy's rich or poor, handsome or average looking, or anything in between. The complaint is always the same. Why is it that I can never seem to get the women that I really want? To make it even worse, these guys often have no problem attracting women that they're not excited about, women they don't really want. And they do it effortlessly without even really trying. But like some kind of twisted joke, when a woman comes along that they truly want, one that they can actually picture a future with, everything falls apart. Sound familiar? Yeah. It is a brutal cycle. And here's the kicker. The women who slip through your fingers aren't just attractive. They're women you actually have a chance with. Think about it. You see attractive women all the time. From the barista who made your coffee today, to the women that you pass on the street. Or even that girl at the gym, that girl you match with on Tinder, whatever. Attractive women, they're everywhere. So why is it that this one specific girl sticks out in your mind? Why is it that when you finally meet someone that you're genuinely excited about, she becomes the one that you just can't seem to lock down? And now look, I know this frustration well. I spent the better part of my life wrestling with it. Even after I'd worked hard to improve my social skills, even after I could approach women, I could attract women, and I was dating more women than I ever thought I possibly would, I still fumbled when it came to the girl, the one that I really wanted. And it wasn't until I turned 30 that I cracked the code, that I solved this riddle of why I couldn't consistently attract the women that I truly desired. And guess what? The solution isn't some over-the-top strategy or acting like someone you're not. In fact, you're already probably doing a lot of things right. But something changes, doesn't it? You meet a girl, things are going well, and then bam, everything shifts. Suddenly you go from the guy who's confident, who's relaxed, to the guy who's second guessing everything and you're worried about the outcome. And that's exactly where you're going wrong. You're essentially playing not to lose, but you need to shift that into playing to win. You need to start playing to win. And now playing to win, this isn't just some rah-rah motivational nonsense. It's an attitude that separates the men who get what they want from the whiners and the complainers and the boys who don't. And the key difference is when you play to win, you're not playing it safe. Playing to win means you risk losing. Now, to really understand what I'm getting at here, let me tell you of my all-time favorite moment in sports history, which is when Mike Tyson fought Buster Douglas in 1990. Now, if you haven't heard about this fight, it is legendary. But what people usually focus on is how Buster was a 42-1 underdog, or how Buster's mom died just a few days before the fight, or even how it was the first time that the seemingly invincible Mike Tyson, Iron Mike, was knocked out. And yeah, those are some incredible aspects of this story. But what I find most impressive of all is how Buster Douglas fought in the later rounds. Now, we're talking about when he was clearly up on the scorecards and the fight was now his to lose. I mean, really consider this. By the middle of the fight, everyone knew Buster was ahead. His corner knew it. The crowd knew it. And you can be sure that Buster Douglas knew it too. And at that point, what would most fighters do? They would have went into survival mode. They would have just sticked and moved, stayed out of range, because that's all he had to do for a guaranteed decision victory. And keep in mind, we are talking about peak Mike Tyson here, the man who could turn your lights out with a single punch. So every exchange with Tyson was a gamble. It was a risk that could have turned the whole fight on its head. But Buster Douglas, he didn't play it safe. He didn't fight like a man who felt like he had something to protect. He fought like a man with nothing to lose. And that's what made this fight legendary. In the 8th round, Buster almost did lose. Mike caught him with a brutal uppercut at the end of the round that sent Buster to the canvas. Somehow he managed to stagger to his feet as the ref counted to 9, so literally he didn't have a second to spare. So the round ends, he goes to his corner, and imagine what would be going through your head at that point. You almost just lost the best fight of your career because you kept exchanging with Iron Mike. Put yourself in Buster's shoes. What would you do? How would you come out in that 9th round? You would probably do whatever you could to avoid Mike. You'd start playing not to lose at that point, right? But nope, not Buster. Buster comes charging out in the 9th round. He takes the fight right to Mike Tyson. He keeps coming forward. Buster's throwing combinations. He's pressing the attack and he's taking risks. And it's in one of those exchanges, this calculated risk, that Buster Douglas landed the punch that knocked Mike Tyson out. And he became a legend because he fought to win until the very last moment. Now let's bring this back to dating. You're probably like Buster Douglas when you first meet an attractive woman. When things are starting out and you haven't really caught feelings for her, right? Because it's funny, I've had this happen so many times in my own personal life, as well as I've seen it happen so many times with clients, that I need to point this out. A lot of the time, when it first starts, in those initial stages, it's a woman that we don't even consider her as a prospect, whether it's because we assume she was out of our league, or there was some sort of buffer, like you guys worked together, or you thought she was in a relationship maybe, or sometimes it's even a woman that we initially overlook or we underestimate. We don't realize how attractive she actually is. Whatever the reason, she didn't completely dominate our thoughts in the beginning. Even if it's a woman who was on your radar, you usually don't immediately find yourself in that emotional quicksand like you do later on when you really start catching feelings for her. Now look, the point I'm getting at here is that in those early stages, you don't really feel like you have anything with her. So you don't feel like you have anything to lose. And so you play to win. You aren't constantly overthinking things or overanalyzing everything. You're just present in the moment, radiating out your authentic personality. You're relaxed, you aren't filtering yourself, and you're not afraid that she might lose interest. It probably felt easy, like you weren't even trying. And guess what? She noticed. But once she starts showing you some interest, that's when everything usually starts to change. Once you realize you have a shot with her, it starts to feel like you have something. Even if it's just her giving you some attention or her just flirting with you, something happens. Somewhere in your mind, the idea of you and her, it starts to take form. And it only gets worse as you start to make progress with her. Maybe you get her number, or maybe you even make out with her, or possibly even more. Fact is, once you start to feel like you have something with her, it's almost like a switch gets flipped in your brain, and you go from playing to win to now playing not to lose. You're trying not to lose what you think you have with her. And once that happens, you're no longer playing offense. You're now only focused on defense. You are scrambling to protect what you think you have, what you think you've gained. This is when you start second guessing yourself, when you start overthinking every text, analyze every interaction. And this is usually precisely when she starts to pull away. But let's not kid ourselves. Can you really blame her? You went from being this confident guy that she found intriguing to a boring, analytical dork who's trying way too hard. Tough love, but that's the way you're acting. Because when you're playing not to lose, you're operating from a place of fear, and that causes you to be reactive instead of proactive. You're constantly on the back foot rather than leading, and you cannot be attractive when you're acting like this, when you're playing it safe. That's because you're no longer fun to be around. You lose your humor, your spark. You're no longer interesting or memorable. Instead, you're like the watered down, safe mode version of yourself. You're boring, predictable, and like every other guy who played it safe with her. You're not thinking creatively because you're locked in a protective mindset. And it's ironic because that's exactly the mindset that's going to cause you to lose what you're trying to protect. Now, this explains why it's so easy to attract the women that you're not really into, because they're the women that you're not afraid to lose. But the women that we really want, we don't want to mess it up with them. We're afraid to mess things up with them. And guess what? That fear, it sabotages us. Our fear of loss becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's why it so often happens that as soon as we think we've gained something, as soon as we think we have something worth losing, we set ourselves up to lose it. So the question you're probably asking now is, how do I flip the switch back so that I'm playing to win again? I have an answer, but bear with me here because at first blush, it's going to sound like something a Zen monk might say. So are you ready? You need to release yourself from the outcome and only focus on what's real, which is the present moment. Now, here's how to put that into practical terms. Whenever I'd start to feel myself sinking into emotional quicksand, the way I'd pull myself out is I'd remind myself that I don't have anything. What I feel I have, or what I'm trying to hold on to, is simply a collection of positive memories. Sure, I may have gotten her phone number, or maybe I had an amazing date with her, or hell, I could have even hooked up with her. And as incredible or as mind-blowing as all that may have been, what do I really have? What am I trying to hold on to? And now look, I'm not asking that as a rhetorical question. There is a definitive answer to that. What I'm trying to hold on to is the past. It's like chasing your shadow or trying to catch sunlight in a jar. It's an impossible task, and you come off looking like a fool for even trying. You need to accept that the past is a memory, the future is an illusion, so the only thing that's real is the now, is this present moment. And you can't just pretend, you can't just nod along and act like you accept this. You actually need to accept it, which means you have to stop trying to control the outcome. The only thing you can control is yourself. And the more you try to control anything outside of yourself, the less control you'll have over yourself. So let it go. Stop being afraid to lose. Commit to only playing to win. So with that mindset shift alone, you should be able to solve a lot of the issues that you're experiencing once a woman starts pulling away. But if you feel like you need a little extra, a little bit more of a game plan, more of a step-by-step explanation of what's going on and how to turn things around, I actually created another video right here on YouTube, you can watch for free, that addresses exactly that. I'm gonna put a link to it at the end of this video. I'll put a card up and I'll make sure there's plenty of places where you can click on it so you can go watch that video right after you finish watching this one. And I really recommend you do that, because if you pair that video with this mindset, with the play to win mindset, that is an excellent 1-2 combo for getting you back in the game, for getting you back on track with that girl who really matters. And also, if you've enjoyed today's video, hit that like button, drop a comment below, tell me what you learned or what you plan to try next. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, because I'm putting out weekly videos that help you date the women you actually want. So until next week, I am Rob Judge, and I am encouraging you to date hotter girls.